Okay, in this final session in this four-part series on respirators and the coronavirus, I'll discuss the use of respirators during this coronavirus outbreak and provide suggestions on using masks that are not N95 certified. To summarize our main concern here, we are trying to avoid getting the COVID-19 illness caused by the coronavirus. There are two primary pathways for the virus to get into our bodies: inhaling the virus or picking up the virus from a contaminated surface and then touching our fingers to our mouth or eyes. If we inhale the virus, it will be inhaled as the virus itself, singly or in clumps, or within a droplet coughed, sneezed, or even talked out of an infected person. The series has been devoted to the inhalation route of exposure. Going back to a graphic shown in part 1, we can see why a, quote, social distance of at least 6 feet has been established. That is the distance within which most of the droplets will have simply fallen out of the air due to their larger size. However, there may still possibly be a chance that the smaller virus dried from a droplet can travel further than that distance. This is why it is so important for an infected person to cover their face. So what about using a mask to protect yourself? At this point in time, March 24th, 2020, there should be very few occasions, and in many states now, no occasions, in which a person is forced to breach the social distance. Furthermore, wearing an N95 is not comfortable by any means. They are compressed tightly against the face, and your exhaled breath makes them hot. And most importantly, you are breathing through a filter. Your lungs are now a vacuum blower pulling against the filter media. There is a noticeable resistance after a few minutes, which gets more obvious with any effort, and you naturally breathe faster. Ask anyone who has to wear one of these at work if they would prefer not to use one. After an hour of use, I am ready to rip it off my face. Finally, their ability to provide the 95% efficiency talked about in part 3 goes down quickly if there are any leaks around your cheeks, chin, or especially the nose. It is very difficult to simply purchase one off the internet and, like a pair of shoes, have it the exact right size and type to fit your face perfectly. For all these reasons, and primarily to keep them for those on the front lines, the CDC wants them kept for our healthcare workers. And what about a do-it-yourself mask? There are now many designs from low-tech to high-tech on the internet. If you're a good seamstress, this is an option, but even if not, one design on YouTube shows how to make a decent mask simply by cutting up a t-shirt. I don't think any design is going to ensure a complete seal around your face. To ensure that you are breathing through the mask material and not breathing in air that has leaked around the material. However, a pipe cleaner sewed into the fold that goes over the nose would be a big help to better ensure a leak-free mask. If you put one on and your face is not hot and it's as easy as breathing without one, you can be assured you do not have a good seal. In that case, you do have the equivalent of a surgical mask. As mentioned in part 2, this would be great for those showing symptoms. And what kind of material would work best in a DIY mask? One study conducted in 2010 tested common fabrics for just the purpose we are concerned with today, a pandemic. They found that all the household fabrics tested were only 10 to 14% efficient, 10 to 40% efficient. This study found that towel and sweatshirt material worked best, but of course the thicker the material, the harder to breathe through. This is the conundrum of all face masks. The conditions they used for the test involved a pretty high flow rate through the material, as if breathing when exercising. They also tested a small particle size right near the dip in efficiency seen in part 3 to get the worst case scenario. Be careful of this issue if you come across similar information from other studies or on the web, such as the one pointed out here that can be Googled. a lower flow rate and testing larger particles will result in higher efficiencies. Here's the graph of removal efficiency relative to particle size that was discussed in part 3. The top curvy line shows the efficiency curve for an N95, which dips down to 95% efficient for rather small particles less than 1/10 of a micrometer. I have drawn in 2 additional curves to show you what the results for cloth material that is at least 60% efficient and one that is at least 35% efficient. Notice that even those material types will protect against large droplets. Some other ideas regarding materials associated with a DIY mask. The best would be a random weave of moisture-resistant material. Your exhaled breath contains a lot of moisture and will soak cotton fairly quickly, making it even harder to breathe through because it will swell the cotton fibers. I have some ideas from the hardware store that I'm going to investigate. If you want to reproduce the bands of a face mask, they may look funny, but the best thing I've found in my house is the band around my Fruit of the Looms. Most DIY plans involve sewing 2 semicircular pieces together. This forms a crease over the nose, which is a good idea because you don't want the fabric directly touching the mouth, as that will wet it quickly. On the flip side, you don't want that airspace to be too large because don't forget that you are exhaling into the mask as well. So you will rebreathe a portion of what you exhaled with every breath. So a large volume to exhale into means rebreathing most of your last breath, which means breathing in a lot of carbon dioxide, which will make you drowsy. There are some DIYs made of 2-liter bottles that I think would be lousy for this reason. Lastly, there are masks made by a few companies, originally designed for off-road vehicle use, that are not certified as N95s but could be just as effective. Again, if a good seal can be made. They advertise very high efficiencies, even up to 99.99%. But remember that these results may be because they slowed the breathing rate down and analyzed larger particles. Regardless, a university study demonstrated that they can be just as efficient as an N95, or in some cases they were fairly worthless. Either way, I would think that these masks would be better than anything you could DIY if still available. And I hope this series on the coronavirus and respirators was helpful to you. Thanks.